Inside Wrestling Radio. All right, back here on Inside Wrestling Radio with the Raging Bull, Manny Fernandez. And before the break, Manny, we were talking a little bit about training and psychology and all that kind of thing. You got a few more things on that, or we covered
Rick,
pretty good?
I've been around a lot of independent shows, and I've been to some that people shouldn't even call a wrestling show. I mean, there's the bad thing about there's so many good young kids that love wrestling and want to be part of it, but they get hooked up with some of these people that never had a clue about wrestling, probably never been an athlete in their life, much less ever know how to take somebody down or even got on a wrestling mat.
Not to even speak of ever drawing a dime.
Yeah, not that too. But they get their hooks into these young kids with, oh, you could be a big star, and I could do this for you, and we run these shows, and they take their money. Yeah. But they don't got a clue how to teach them how to wrestle. They don't got to teach how to tie up. It's like I told my guys, and here's what I told the guys about psychology, and this goes back to the Roman era. Yeah. For a gladiator to be a great gladiator, he had to win the crowd. Yeah. He had to go out there and show off. He had to go out there and demonstrate to the crowd. Not only could be a great killer, but he had that charisma. He had that psychology, when to do this and that, and carry himself like a warrior. Carry himself like
the part.
Look the part. Yeah. Sometimes that fools people. Just looking the part, I'll get away with, it's like I tell people, when in doubt, grab a hold. Yeah. And when you tell that to somebody who's never been taught that, they just look at you with this dumb look in your face, like, what are you talking about?
What do you mean?
Yeah, what do you mean? That's the sad thing about these, wannabe promoted, fly-by-night trainers that you got out there, that they don't take it upon that they don't respect the business, number one, because they never really had. The greatest thing about our business in my era was traveling up and down the road with all the guys. Yes. Get a car load of guys, make it to the show, do the show together. One guy that's driving gets 3 cents a mile. Then, everybody switches around, takes turns driving. Right, yeah. But you get to drive down the road, drinking beer on the way home, having fun, telling stories. Don't say that too loud and fun, Charlie. Telling stories and stuff, That was a camaraderie, a brotherhood that's not around anymore. Right. And these guys that are out there trying to teach wrestling ain't got a clue about that.
Sure, because they never did it.
No, never did. Never had the experience, the chance to be around people like that and know what it means. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, yeah. Tell us about your time there in the NWA and later WCW. Let's talk a little bit about Wahoo. You said you had some fond memories of Wahoo.
Oh my God, Wahoo McDaniels is one of the greatest. I've always had people ask me, who was your greatest challenge? Who was your greatest wrestler? Well, you got to remember, I had the greatest talent to work with all my life. Sure. From Terry Funk to Don Morocco, Dory Funk, Terry Funk, King Curtis, Ronnie Garvin, Wahoo McDaniels, Harley Race, but Wahoo was a special individual with me because Wahoo was the type of man that he dished out and he wanted you to dish it back. Right. If he chopped you, you got to hit him back harder. If he hit you harder, you got to hit him back harder. Yeah. As long as you weren't in the eyes and nose and mouth, fine. Me and Wahoo were known for these battles, and when I first came from Southwest Championship with Joe Blanchard, signed with Mid-Atlantic, little town in Shelby, we did TV taping, and Wahoo was heel at the moment, and I came in as the new face, baby face, whatever. Yeah. And Wahoo was just sitting there killing everybody with that chop. Right. Well, they told me what was going on, the angle and everything. So we'll go out there, and Wahoo's beating up on somebody. I hit the ring. Took my shirt off, hit the ring, and he chopped me, brother. I wasn't supposed to go down, but after that first chop, I wanted to go down. I said, I ain't going to stand up for another one of these.
Right. Yeah, that's enough of that.
That's enough of that. But, man, he lit me up, and I didn't go down, and the crowd popped, the territory popped. And it was just great that we went around. We were married to each other for about 6 months. Sure. And we just went around and physically beat the living crap out of each other. Yeah. But I enjoyed the heck out of that.
Yeah. You're a physical guy, and you kind of got into that back and forth, too.
Yeah, so everywhere Wahoo ended up going, like when I was booked in Southwest Championship Wrestling, Wahoo was the booker. He's the one that brought me in. Sure. And, of course, he came here because Dusty was here. And then when Wahoo went off and Dusty killed the territory, Mid-Atlantic, and stuff like that. And we had our run. We had our good run with WCW, but that's when Dusty was trying to incorporate everything, buy all the wrestling organizations and everything, and make it one big promotion. Sure, which is probably the worst mistake that Jim Crockett ever made. Yeah, cost him almost everything he ever made in his life.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's greed and ego.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't need to go any further than where I was. I was happy here in the South.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
we had Virginia, North and South Carolina, every now and then, lower part of Georgia, every now and then, a little bit in Pennsylvania.
Right.
What else? Why'd you have to go to Louisiana, California, all the way
down? And wrestling was huge here in those days. I mean, this area, it was just like wrestling, you know, mecca.
Yeah, everywhere you went, we used to do TV in Spartanburg, pack it out.
Yeah.
Limestone College, pack it out.
Sure.
Anywhere around there, you know, Selby, North Carolina, pack it out.
Yeah.
Columbia, everywhere in South Carolina, everywhere in North Carolina. Everything we did was packed out.
Yeah.
Why did we have to go? But
exactly.
It was Dusty's ego that he had to go cross country. Of course, by then, Wahoo had turned back babyface.
Right.
You know, and then, you know, me and Wahoo teamed up a few times and stuff. And, you know, and when I got with WCW, I got in a lot of trouble with Dusty.
Is that
right? I got tired of his ego. You know, Dusty was the kind I called Dusty in my book a user.
Yeah.
See, when I met Dusty, when I came from Amarillo in '79 there, Dusty was the booker in Florida. And I noticed then, but I was too young to say. I didn't say nothing for the first 3 years of my career.
Right.
I didn't dare say anything.
Sure. Yeah.
Because you have to respect. Now they don't have that respect.
Exactly right.
They don't walk up to a guy that's been in the business forever, shake his hand,
yeah.
introduce yourself.
Sure.
They have none of that. I just shut my mouth for 3 years. But
yeah.
I watched Dusty in the time I was in Florida, and I saw how when he won the world title, he wanted me to be the first one there because I was the hot baby face at the time.
He wanted to get the rub.
Yeah, and he'd team up with me and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I just kept, his ego evolved more with me. Well, I was happy to get away from him and go to Southwest with Wahoo.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he signed me. He's the one that called me and said, you need to give your notice and come to Mid-Atlantic. You're going to make most money you're making your life. Well, that sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So, of course, I gave my notice and come. But it was the same thing, you know, his ego. Yeah. And, you know, Dusty this, Dusty this. Dusty could beat all the four horsemen. Dusty needs Manny Fernandez. You know, that was one of my low points in my career, really, was being World Tag Team Champion with Dusty.
Is that right?
Yeah, because he would give me crap of the way I acted. He wanted me to act like a top guy. Yeah. He didn't want me riding with the underneath guys.
Oh, really?
And I owed everything in the world to the underneath guys,
sure,
man.
Yeah.
And I loved them. It was Hector Guerrero and Denny Brown and Mike Davis. Man, they were my best of friends.
Sure, yeah.
You know, those guys.
We're really short on time, man. But real quick, in just maybe a minute or so, can you tell us a little bit about Rick Rude and your time with him?
Rick Rude was one of the greatest individuals I ever met in my life. God rest his soul and his family. We got along so great because Dusty Rhodes thought we wouldn't get along.
Right.
He thought we'd be total opposites. I'd end up getting in more trouble and probably get kicked cost me my contract. But with him, I told him one time, and he never forgot this. I said, Rude, remember this. I am the worker. They call you a gimmick, and that's what they want to be. So do what you got to do to get over, and I'll do what I got to do to get over.
Sure.
And that's how we got along. He understood that.
Yeah.
And one night in Huntington, West Virginia, we wrestled Rock and Roll Express for an hour.
Yeah. And
I wrestled for 47 minutes. He only got in for 8 minutes, him and Robert Gibson. So I was so burned out and tired in the shower, I told him, hey, we got to work a little more time into this. You got to share the time here.
Sure.
And he stopped me. He goes, remember this, man. You are the worker and I am the gimmick.
Unbelievable. That's a great story. Man, again, we're just almost out of time here. Before we get out of here, let's talk about the book. Let's talk about the DVDs that are coming out. Tell us all about it.
The DVDs coming out is, Ricky Morton, Manny Fernandez, Raging Bull Tell All. That's a good DVD. It's a good shoot DVD. The book we're still working on it because there's still more stories. Sure. Homicide wrote a forward, and Homicide tells a good story about me, how he met me, how I trained him. That's another good forward. Of course, Terry's forward was really, really what made the book. Will make the book, I think.
So just to recap from last week, Terry Funk wrote a forward.
Terry Funk wrote a forward.
And Homicide also wrote a
Homicide.
So you get your trainer and your trainee.
Trainer and trainee.
That's awesome.
That's it, yeah.
Very
and, of
cool.
course, you got some little short deal, the Jack Briscoe statement saying I was born natural for it and stuff like that.
Very nice, very nice. And any idea when the book may be available?
Well, according to Scott Teal, it'll be 6 months to a year.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll definitely be looking out for that, and we'll keep our fans up to date on the release date of that. And you said you had 2 big events coming up you want to talk about.
Yeah, they're inducting me in the Scranton, Pennsylvania Hall of Fame.
Oh, congratulations.
Legions of Fame's up there on the 24th, and again in Wildwood, New Jersey on the 25th. So I'll be up there in that neck of the woods up there.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Manny, it's just been a thrill to have you here, and we really appreciate you coming out. I just can't thank you enough, and continued success, all the success in the world with your DVDs and your book, and anything we can do for you here at Inside Wrestling Radio, don't hesitate to give us a shout. We do anything in the world for you, and we just really do appreciate you coming.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, Charlie. I enjoyed it, and I hope to be back here. And anytime you need me, I'll be back here.
Awesome. We'll definitely have you back on in the future. Fans, that's going to do it for this interview with Manny Fernandez. We'll be right back at more Inside Wrestling Radio coming up next.